Welcome to Public Health Matters, where we talk about matters of public health. I'm your host today, Division Director Bobby Bagley, Chief Public Health Official for the City of Nashua. And I'm joined today with Ryan Michaels, who works with Farmers Insurance and actually has, is it Michaels Agency?
Yes, the Michaels Agency.
Michaels Agency. And Michael is here because we have the opportunity to meet during our Citizens Academy, which is an opportunity for members in the community of Nashua to learn about what we do in our municipal settings. So you've had the chance actually to go through quite a number of them. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience before we talk about the work that you do and why the work you do is important?
Yeah, absolutely. The City Academy is a great program, and it really takes the citizens through the different departments that are in our city that are offering community services for all of us. And it's really eye-opening for me to see some of the inner workings, what's going on that we don't see every day. Maybe you hear about it, or maybe you don't even hear about it, but you wonder, how does the city continue to work and thrive?
Right.
And this gives you a good insight as to all the hard work that goes on that you don't see day to day.
Yeah. So you had the opportunity to join us at the Division of Public Health and Community Services. What was something that stuck out to you, or an aha moment, or just like, I didn't know that we did this?
That was a lot in that one. I remember you guys had a ton of questions, and we were pretty amazed at how much they actually did. How much community outreach you guys are doing, how much you help people that are in need that may have fallen through the cracks. Just so many instances like that. How much for that you do for the children out there too. One thing that stuck out with me is the measuring of the lead in homes, and you don't really hear about that a lot anymore, but it is, especially in New England, a lot of old homes, a lot of lead. So
yeah, that
was really eye-opening to me, and I even checked. My youngest never even had the lead check, so we're going to have to get on that.
Yes.
Thanks to that program.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's a requirement for kids at least 2 and under, because that's when they're toddling around. They're on the floor, and they learn by putting things in their mouths.
Absolutely.
And so for folks that have older homes, if they do any renovations in those homes and they disturb any lead-based paint that's there, or if there's lead in the soil and you've got those little ones, toddlers into the mouths, that's how they get the lead into their bodies.
Yeah.
Right. And so we, at the health department, our goal is to inform community members about issues that can protect, preserve, and just prolong life. And something like lead poisoning causes intellectual and developmental delays. And so that's why that's so important that we do that particular service. So I'm glad that you got something out of that.
No, absolutely.
And I'm going to get that checked out for your little one as well. And speaking of homes, and so in the work that you do, because now we're going to make a little bit of a transition, I'm glad that you are part of the City Academy and learning with so many other professionals about work that happens behind the scenes that no one knows about, especially in particular with public health. The topic of the lead in the homes is one that can come right back to the type of work that you actually do. Your work is about preserving things, protecting things, and making sure that people are covered.
Correct.
For catastrophes, for unexpected things that come up. And so we want those that are in the audience today to learn about why it's important to have insurance. And so my interest in having you come on board was to talk about that, because there are things that sometimes people just don't think about. New Hampshire is a state where you don't have to have insurance on your vehicles.
Correct.
Tell us why that's important, Ryan.
So yeah, so basically what insurance is it's to make you whole again. So if something happens, an accident, whether in your car or in your home, insurance is going to be there to help repair that and make it the way it should be, like back to almost like new, if possible.
Right.
So in the case of a car accident, you want to have your car repaired so you can be ready to drive it again. And while the car is being in the shop, a lot of times we offer what's called rental insurance, so you can have another reliable source of transportation to get around until your car is repaired. Especially today with parts being longer lead times, and it's more expensive with the repairs because of the cost of labor. That's a big benefit to have on hand.
Right.
And let's say for your house, here in New England, we have to worry about snow, ice, fallen trees that could easily happen to anyone's house And I was a victim of some ice dam damage. Luckily, nothing major, but
Right.
they did have to come in and repair a lot of wet drywall and some of the wood floor, the insulation, and also make sure there was no mold being formed because of that. And basically when they left, it was repaired and pretty much like new.
Yeah. So how do we help our viewers to understand, one, the affordability of it? So folks that have homes, they typically will purchase insurance for their homes. I've actually learned, Ryan, that renters now have to have insurance coverage as well. Talk a little bit about the affordability of it. So if I am a person whose income might be a little bit lower than middle income, or someone that has higher income that can afford insurance, talk about how, if I'm low income, how can I afford to have insurance? What does the bundling package look like? How could it be cheaper for me to have insurance so that I am protected and I can be restored in the time where there could be some losses?
Yeah, that's a great question, and the best thing to do is to start the conversation. Reach out to your local insurance agent, try someone new, shop around a little bit, and tell them, like, this is my situation, this is what I'd like to do, because there are a lot of options with insurance. You can get super high coverage, or you can get very low coverage, but you want to make sure your bases are covered.
Yeah.
And most insurance agents are going to be more than welcome or more than open to work with you and make sure you're getting what fits your needs. So it's important to have those conversations about what you want and also what you don't want. Like, if you don't want to be paying too much for stuff you don't need, then make sure they're taking those items out, because a lot of times when we do a bundle package, we like to add extra coverage in there for what if, or what could happen, and that may not be necessary. But to your point, if you do bundle, if you have a home, if you have auto, that's certainly a good bundle where you will save some money. If you can add in life insurance, or if you have a business or you're starting a business, that's a really good thing to look at too.
Yeah.
And again, just have that conversation, talk about what you want, what you need, and try to get the right price that works for you.
Is anyone ever denied insurance though?
They can be. Certain carriers specialize in certain areas where others are more for the higher risk. And obviously, if you've, let's say you're a fast driver and you get a lot of speeding tickets, you're going to probably pay a lot more for your insurance because of that.
Yeah.
But if you're a safe driver, which let's all drive safe out there, and you're going to pay less premium or less of a payment for your auto insurance.
Right. Yeah. Earlier when we got together today, we were talking about the different things with the accidents. I actually had a young person crash into a vehicle that I had, and I had a truck, so their vehicle was totaled, but they didn't have any insurance coverage. And so, is it important, Ryan, for parents to understand that when they have their younger people, that even though New Hampshire may be a state where you don't have to have a car insurance, that it's beneficial to actually go ahead and get that insurance, and then buy an insurance plan that actually they can afford, but that they should actually insure that vehicle?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one, it's going to cover the actual damage that occurs, and two, the liability. So if that young person were to hit somebody and cause medical damage, neck, back, what have you, that they can come back and actually sue. So by having that liability coverage, it protects you in more than just the car itself.
Right.
So you don't want to just think about the vehicle. You want to think about your personal well-being and covering your family.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more than just
I didn't think about that piece of it, because the initial thing, because there were no injuries, right? So this was one of those slam into the back of the car. It wasn't high speed or anything, but I was surprised that their car got totaled. But it may have been because my vehicle was heavier, right? And so because there was no physical injuries, it didn't even dawn on me that insurance would actually have covered those pieces of it as well. So that's important for our viewers to know about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now there's other areas of insurance and that we talked about as well. And so you mentioned life insurance. And so let's talk a little bit about that, because insurance is about planning, right? And taking care of what could happen, or something that's unexpected. Death is one of those things that's unexpected, right? And although we might plan for living longer and think only older people need to be covered. Can you talk a little bit about why it's important to have the family or even younger people covered by insurance as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So just like your auto insurance, life insurance is kind of the same way. Once you pass away or one of your loved ones passes away, life insurance is going to be there to help financially support the rest of your family. So that can be things like any debts that you have from credit card. It can cover your mortgage or your rent. It can cover any of your educational expenses going forward for your kids, and basically just make sure that they're going to be covered for the future. So let's take a typical like 4-person family. Maybe one of the spouses passes away or one of the parents. Think about all those expenses, not only the final cost of the funeral, but you get to cover that mortgage or rent payment, your car payments possibly, any outstanding credit card debts, and also, replacing that income over so many years would be very beneficial. So what we typically do, we like to talk to our customers and go through what's called a DIME analysis. So the D stands for what are your outstanding debts? The I is your outstanding income, and you want to go project that 10 years into the future. What is your mortgage payment? And then what do you want to pay for education for your kids, going in the future?
Right.
And if you total those numbers up and project it out in the future, that gives you a rough idea of how much coverage you might want to cover, carry. So that way you have a good understanding of where you might want to be at.
Yeah, and you could do the same thing. So say if you didn't own a home, so it may not be mortgage, you would do the same thing with, because like there's a cost for rental insurance, and that I don't think that's really high.
No.
But if you got life insurance, then depending on what your situation is, you would just look at those things. So maybe you're not looking at how much the mortgage might be, but you might be looking at other things in there.
Yep.
And that's where you're talking about the package. You take, you can look at what you want to buy out of this insurance plan.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And there are so many different levels, and like we said with the auto and the home, talk to your local insurance agent. Say, what do you think I should have, and where ultimately we got to find a package that's going to work for you. Some people might not know what they want, but they may know exactly what they don't want. Like I said earlier, they don't want to pay for stuff they don't need.
Right.
So if it's just like a final expense insurance, that could be enough to cover your final expenses, your funeral cost, any unpaid debts, anything. And maybe some people like to leave a little extra behind for their kids or their grandkids. We have some people that may not have families, but they want to leave something behind as a charitable donation to, like say the Cub Scouts or the Girl Scouts, for example, or the Boys and Girls Club. They might want to say, hey, that was a big part of my life. I want to give back to them even when I'm gone. Yeah,
so that planned charitable giving, that's included in the insurance package?
It can be. We set it up to each client's individual, request.
That's actually really good to know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was ever offered as a part of our plan to include the charitable giving, but that is a big piece of what some folks do look into, right? So and that may include, I'm going to give for my family, but like you said, there might be a nonprofit organization, that a person has value in the work that they do, and that becomes a part of their planned charitable giving.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I think it was Warren Buffett said when he passes away, his kids are getting very little money, and a lot of it's going to be donated.
Yeah. But he probably taught them already how to invest.
Yeah, I think they're good.
They'll be all set because he's already taught them how to make a lot of investments.
Exactly.
So, Ryan, talk a little bit about what made you decide to get into this line of work?
What made us get into insurance was both my wife and I, we work together, and we're both very people-oriented. We like to entertain. We like to be around people. We like to help people. And with insurance, we looked at some different avenues we could go, and we really like the idea of insurance, that we can help people, we can, cater to what their needs are, and in particular with the life insurance, like when my parents passed away, to see, their health declined, and they had to go through and kind of burn up all their savings, and they didn't have life insurance, and they had to go on Medicaid, and it was a really tough situation, and if we can help people mitigate that and be in a better position, and also to help their kids, and we've also known people who are at, around our age, and they unexpectedly passed away from a heart attack or an accident. And to see what they went through and trying to, do GoFundMes and trying to, get by, and, the spouse had to go immediately back to work, and, it's really disruptive to the family.
Right, yeah.
So if they could have a situation where they're provided for and they can, go about and not have those worries, I mean, that's huge.
Yes. And how often do you, once you and your wife kind of get set up with clients, do you meet with them on a regular basis? Do you, I'm thinking like how, like a financial advisor, like how they work, but you're the insurance broker. So plans have to get renewed, right? So then do you reach out to the individuals and say, okay, so it's time for your renewal. What do you want to keep? What do you want to add? What do you want to, get rid of? Is that how it also works?
Yeah, absolutely. So we call it a farmer's friendly review, but yeah, it's a nice review of, where's your situation at now from last year, whether it's home and auto, did you change cars, do you have a new driver in your family that just turned of driving age, do you want that protection? But also in life insurance too, it's, did you change households, are you making more money that you need to be covered for? Some cases our customers want to have an umbrella for a higher protection of liability, so we can work with them on that. But ultimately too, it could go the other way, like, okay, well, you downsized your house, let's make sure you're not paying all that extra money. Did your cars change? Or there's so many factors in life that you do want to have those regular checkups and to make sure, just like going to the doctor. You want to make sure you're healthy, and same thing financially.
Right, yeah. And that's how I thought of this, as well. So when we do work in public health, we're looking at how we can protect, how we can preserve, and how we can promote life and life safety. This conversation is an extension of that because, as you mentioned in the beginning, you want people to be able to restore if an event occurs. So how do they get back to a state of being where they don't have to worry about certain things, or they're insured that those things that did happen that can cause damage, or loss, those things are taken care of and those things are repaired without there being a lot of cost that impacts that family or that individual, right? And so the insurance helps mitigate some of those things.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, and you mentioned this earlier, how do you kind of plan for different situations like renters insurance and that. And I think that the best thing to do is start early, have that conversation and plan it out, like you said. And like in the case of a renter, the person that owns the overall apartment building or whatever you're living in has a master policy, but it's not going to cover your contents.
Right.
So if there was a fire alarm and the sprinklers came on, or there was smoke damage or a total loss, the renter's insurance, which like you said is not very expensive, it would cover all your personal belongings. And same thing with if you want to get in early on, say you're in your 20s, you get married and you have your first couple kids, there's something called term insurance, which is typically, like it sounds, a period of time or a term. It's usually like 10, 20, and 30 years. And you can get, a fairly cheap monthly policy, maybe $10 to $50 a month for anywhere from like $200 to $500 or even $1 million of coverage. So God forbid, if you were to pass in that time during that term, your family would be well taken care of in that case. Yeah.
So you're planning for the unexpected. And we tend to have those types of conversations around emergency preparedness planning. So this would fit right in there, right? Yes. And so we actually have what we call like a Go kit or a Be Prepared kit. And so I would think that you would want to have insurance as a part of that as well, because things happen. We're in New England. We do have the not blackouts, but the whiteouts with the snow and all, and lose power and everything. We do have accidents on the road and all those things like that. So this would be one of those things, Ryan, that I would consider to be a part of that emergency planning, right? That you would have something in place. And I'm actually glad that you mentioned like the whole family situation and the term, because sometimes young people, because we don't think it's going to happen to us. I can't even say we anymore because now I'm past the young. I'm past that young group, right? But younger people may not think that they need to have insurance at 25. If they start a family, at that young age, may not be thinking that. But I think you brought up a really important point that that is time when you want to start planning
Yep.
and thinking about, what do I need to have insurance for?
Yeah. I know when I was that age, that certainly wasn't on my mind, and I also didn't know about it or what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've heard the term, but didn't really put it together.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know now, I would certainly have got into a better type of policy that would have been much cheaper when you're younger, because
Yeah.
the insurance companies, they look at all the risk factors there.
Mm-hmm.
What is your age? What is your health? Are you a smoker? They look at alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
They look at physical activity, and that all goes into their risk analysis, and they give you basically a price that it's going to cost you.
Right.
And obviously, at a younger age, you're going to pay much lower cost.
Mm-hmm.
So like in addition to the term, there's also what's called whole life, which is like a permanent insurance that stays with you for your whole life, as long as you pay your premium payments.
Right.
And what's nice about that is that you do have the death benefit, but you also have living benefits. You have a cash value that you can borrow from. So instead of going to like a bank, you can just go to your life insurance company and say, I need to borrow $10,000, $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to say, okay, where do you want us to send it? And they'll transfer it over to you, and then you can use it to pay down a debt, buy a new car, pay it for education, and then you can just pay that back instead of paying the bank. You just pay your own self, and if you don't, it just takes away from your death benefit.
Yeah.
So that's a really nice product to have too.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you start young, it's going to be fairly cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. And how young can you start? So I was telling you about how my mom, I grew up in a single family household, mother, head of household, and she actually took out a life insurance policy out on each one of us. So
That's
someone
smart.
would say, why? Why? Because we were really small. And as I mentioned, I unfortunately lost my brother at the age of 8.
Mm-hmm.
But because she had taken out that insurance plan on him when he passed, she was able to cover a funeral and have other things from that benefit package for other things as well, so that it didn't become a hardship for her. So at what are they still, and this was like, so I'm like in my 60s now.
Mm-hmm.
So this
You look
was
great, by the way.
Oh, thank you. So this was like 50 some odd years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Do they still allow for parents to take out insurance policies on like really young people? Is there an age limit?
Yeah, they do. Then insurance is heavily regulated, so there are very specific ages you can be, and the youngest is 15 days. And a lot of people will, like your mother, good for her. She got that policy for your brother and you, and
Yeah.
he was covered. And that's one where, like on my boys, I have what's called the Index Universal Life, and it's a similar policy where we put money in there for them, and they can use it for their education later
Yeah.
on. They can use it for a car, a business, a house, whatever they want, and it's going to keep growing. And now that they're covered at that young age, they're not going to be turned down for insurance later on
Right.
if they had some kind of illness or something or disease. So
Yeah.
it is smart to start that young, and it
Yeah.
is also much less expensive.
Right, and that's the planning, right? So I don't know, like I mentioned to you before, if people remember the Gerber insurance, but that's what she actually purchased. That was a
Yeah.
really inexpensive insurance that she had on each of us. And then when I turned 18, it turned over to me, right? And so there was that as well. So I
Yeah.
think that was what probably was considered term insurance at that time.
But do you still have it?
I actually do.
So
So
yeah,
it
so it was
turned
probably
over.
more of a whole life
Yeah,
thing then.
yeah.
Because it's still going. Because usually
Yeah.
the terms will go, and then once they cut off, just like a rent in a house, once you're done paying for that rent, it stops, and same with the term.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
meet your full term, then it's like, okay, you're done, you lived, but
Right.
now you don't have anything. But
Yeah. Oh, okay. So it just switched over to that.
yeah.
So yeah.
So with the whole life, that's the nice thing, is it's there for your whole life.
Yeah. Which
And-
is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Because you have the death benefit, and if you don't borrow from it and you don't use it while you're living, then you can pass it on to your beneficiaries, whether it's your
Right.
spouse, your kids, your
Oh,
grandkids.
that's right. We didn't talk about that. The passing over. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
beneficiaries.
So that is the nice thing on some of
Right.
the more expensive insurances, is that they do more for you.
Right. Right. And you
So-
definitely want to name beneficiaries in your insurance plans.
Absolutely. And again, that's like when you mentioned, should you check it up? Yeah, every couple of years you want to make sure you have the right beneficiaries in there. Did you have another child or grandchild that you want to add in there?
Yeah.
Did you maybe get divorced and you want to change that over to someone else? So
Right, yeah.
all good things to look at.
Yeah. this has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the fact of you being open to joining me
My
so that we
pleasure.
could educate our community, educate individuals and families on this really important issue, because that coverage can go a long way and can mean quite a bit for a family and whatever that situation or circumstance, sometimes if it's untimely, of the benefit of having insurance coverage during that type of a life circumstance, right? And so when we talk about public health, we're talking about all aspects of public health, living well, and then also being prepared for anything that can happen in between, what my husband calls the dash, from the point of birth, that dash in between. So the insurance covers everything in that dash until that date of time when we expire, and then beyond that, because that's what insurance allows for us to be able to plan for, even beyond that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Is there any last or final message that you want for our viewers to know about with regards to the importance of insurance, or even how to get in contact with you if they wanted to connect with your agency?
Yeah, sure. I mean, any questions that anybody has, I'm more than open to helping out, and just call me. I love to chat. I love talking business, so my pleasure. You can reach us, our agency, at 603-809-3222. Or, if you have a local agent that you already deal with, reach out to them, have that conversation, tell them, what your concerns are, what you want, what you don't want, and let them work it out with you. We're ultimately all here to help out.
Yeah, awesome. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank
so
you.
I'm Bobby Bagley, and I'm reminding you to have a great day today and a better day tomorrow. And I'll see you the next time on Public Health Matters.